is that DDOT needs to create protective measures to prevent rainfall, excessive rainfall from entering those. So is it DDOT's responsibility to deal with that, or is it WASA's responsibility? Because I get a lot of complaints from folks saying that this neighborhood looks ghetto because of these piles of sandbags.
I think it's been, for at least how we've responded since, in these last few years to the flooding we've had in 2012, it was a joint DPW, DDOT, DC Water. DC Water would go out and clean the catch basins before big storm events. DPW and DDOT would bring out some sandbags to protect what you just mentioned, the WMATA event. So it's been the group, as a result of the task force, responding to these big storm events that every summer we get these big thunderstorms. We want to come up and do everything we can to mitigate the flooding to occur because we know the sewers can't handle it.
So, but in the meantime, you're not going to finish with this project for a significant number of years. What is the plan to address the removal of those sandbags as quickly as possible? Because we don't want to be having that condition going on this long.
Justin, can we look into that?
Yeah, we can talk to you
please?
about that. Sure.
That'd be great.
Yes.
What kind of effect does these 23-foot borings have on the foundations above it, 100 feet above?
The shafts that we're building?
Shafts
or
and borings.
Joel, do you want to?
Sure. This is one of the big parts of the project, is making sure all the structures along the alignment aren't going to be affected by the tunnel. There's an angle of draw or a settlement trough that's above the tunnel. You picture the tunnel as a circle, that angle of draw goes off at some angle from the sides of the tunnel. We look at that zone above the tunnel and around the shafts, and we compare it to what the structures would typically take before they are considered to be potentially damaged. And then, so we identify those structures. The structures that we think can get damaged, under very conservative assumptions, we actually do a protection scheme ahead of time. In the contract, we tell the contractor, you have to implement a protection scheme to protect this structure from settling. One of the first steps of that is to do a pre-construction inspection survey. So before we do any construction, we put out flyers and notifications to property owners along the alignment that we need to come into their structure and do inspection of their house or their business so we can identify the current condition of that structure. And that becomes basically the baseline for assessing if there's damage to the structure. We will repair, if we don't actually think we're going to damage any structures. These machines are pretty amazing. They don't really cause any settlement anymore. In the old days, when they did the WMATA system, there was a different story. The machines weren't very sophisticated. Now they're very, very sophisticated. You can hardly ever tell if they've ever been under the ground. They don't leave a settlement trough. But it's a part of the contract that any damage that occurs to any of the buildings due to the construction will be returned to the condition that they, will return to the previous condition or better. So that's in the contract, that's a part of it. It's a big effort on our job. We don't want to damage any structures along the alignment. It's not good for the community. It's not good for DC Water because that's just money that we have to factor into the contract.
How experienced is your company in actually getting this whole process completed? Was it successful the last time was it done? What city was it done in?
Oh, this CSO program's been going on across the nation for since at least the 80s and before then. Almost every major city that's on the river is going through this same process. This isn't new technology. This is actually kind of old technology. It's been around for quite a while. The one difference is, though, the tunneling process has been evolving, and over the last 10 to 20 years, it's quite amazing what the machine can do.
What kind of problems have they, that being said, what kind of problems have you run into in other cities we might need to be aware of that haven't been spoken about tonight?
From the excavation point of view, in the beginning there was all sorts of problems with excessive settlement, and that's what drove the machine manufacturers to improving that quality. It was costing owners and it was costing contractors too much money to handle that damage. So there was a big effort in the industry starting probably about 25 or 30 years ago to make better machines that could prevent the ground from coming in. And that's what happens. The ground is supported, the machine is encapsulated. The old machines weren't pressurized. These machines are now pressurized. The old ones, they just let the material come right on in, and you had to rely on dewatering, you had to rely on improving the ground. Now we don't. We pressurize the face and the shield around the machine, and that prevents the soil from coming in.
There's a really great description, if you have the chance to take a look at the environmental assessment, we describe how the tunnel is actually constructed in soft ground. It's a really good little interactive. Washington Post did a great story on what we're doing in the Blue Plains Tunnel. They have an even better interactive than what we have in our environmental assessment. So I recommend you, if you Google Washington Post Blue Plains Tunnel, you'll see a really good picture of our tunnel boring machine. One of them, one of many.
There's a question in the back.
Yeah, Rhode Island Avenue, for example, going east to west, where will the tunnel start and where will it stop?
So- That's a good question. So, looking at Rhode Island Avenue, the tunnel, here's RFK Stadium, Cooper Park up here at the end. The tunnel will be launched and constructed from a site just south of RFK Stadium. It will be underground all the way up until we get to 6th and R, where we'll pull it out of the ground and haul it away. The construction work on Rhode Island Avenue, I'm glad you brought this up because it is pretty significant. We are working with traffic, DDOT and traffic, to mitigate those impacts. Work will occur at Rhode Island Avenue just adjacent to the existing WMATA facility, WMATA, Rhode Island and WMATA by the Home Depot up there. We have another site on Rhode Island at 4th Street Northeast, a site at T Street Northeast, a site at Florida Avenue, just south of Rhode Island, and then the site we're talking about tonight, which is at Cooper Park, which is an ANC 6E. So that's this area where we have to support tunneling by doing these diversion facilities at the surface.
How about funding? Do you have funding available to do?
Funding is, majority of funding for this project is through the district ratepayer. So residents of the district like me, you guys, we're funding this project through our water and sewer rates.
Which means we can expect a big increase.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of town halls last year, and Mr. Hawkins has come out and discussed the sewer rate increases over the next 20 years as a result of this program and other work to support it.
So we're going to get a huge increase in rates, and we're going to have construction for about 5-6 years.
Emmanuel, do you know if
The Ward 6 Town Hall is April 15th, and we're now finalizing our presentation with new numbers and new information. So all of DC Water departments will be out like we do every year, and the general manager, he'll come out and give a detailed presentation on that. This year's town hall is going to be at Elliott Hine Middle School, and again, that'll be April 15th. So we'll have...
Since that's tax day, I think that's kind of a bad day to do it. Because people are last minute doing what they have to do for their taxes.
Well, it's in the evening, 6:30 to 8:30.
And when do you think people at the last minute do that? They have till midnight to get it to the post office. I'm just saying.
We're holding town hall meetings in all of the wards, so there'll be 8 meetings throughout the month of April. And you're free to go to any meeting, and the presentations will be put on the website.
And if you'd like flyers for any of the town hall meetings, I can deliver them to you in any convenient location in the area, if you just let me know.
Thank you.
Are there any additional town hall meetings after the Ward 6 one?
Yes, so this is Ward 6, there's one on the 17th, that's Ward 5, and then there's one on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and that's Wards 1, 3, and 7 respectively. And actually, I've emailed recently, but I can send another email to your agency that has all the locations and dates.
I think you did send that.
Often it's more convenient for us to get to events in Ward 1 or Ward 2 just because of our physical proximity than to Capitol Hill or other parts of the ward, so we appreciate having a whole schedule for those. So where are we with your presentation?
So I think we just had, the EA outlines all of these construction staging areas. from RFK Stadium to Cooper Park. We just included slide 15 to show, since it is in close proximity, work that we're doing at the intersection of 3rd Street Northwest and Florida Avenue. Again, it's another diversion facility where we have to take flow off an existing pipe. Just wanted to bring this up because it will certainly have traffic impacts as we move forward with construction.
And lastly, as we've all touched on, the environmental assessment has been going on for almost 6 weeks. Will end officially tomorrow evening at midnight. I do have comment forms on the table in the back. If you'd like to pick one up, you can handwrite it and give it to us as we leave. You're welcome to scan it and email it. You can fax it, or you can simply mail it in. As long as it's postmarked by tomorrow, we will accept your comments. You can also go on the dcwater.com website and enter your comments electronically. So we had a couple of meetings to make sure that the community was aware of the environmental assessment project, and both were at McKinley Technology High School. One was last fall, and one was in late February. And we advertised the meetings heavily, trying to get as many people as possible. We actually mailed 8,000 flyers to households all along the alignment from Cooper Park down to RFK within a quarter mile of the alignment. We also, with External Affairs, made calls through a robocall program to 4,000 phone numbers that we had correct phone numbers for to remind them of the meeting. We placed ads in the Washington Post, the Washington Informer, and the City Paper, and through Emmanuel sent emails to community listservs, to the AMCs, to the council members, and hard copies of the environmental assessment were placed in several locations, libraries, I believe including this one? I think we did. And other community centers to try and make sure we did a comprehensive outreach program to make sure we received as many comments as possible. So again, that official process closes tomorrow evening. However, can we go to the next slide? We are starting our process to continue the outreach once the EA closes, coming out to meet with the community, to meet with the AMCs, the other civic associations all along the alignment, to hear your concerns, make sure you understand the impacts that will be coming with the project, and see if we can better mitigate as we move closer to it. Some of the things you'll see are the traffic advisories. There will be door hangers. We will be doing a pre-construction survey as we get closer, and the footprint of the construction survey, the pre-con survey, will be determined closer as to how many homes along the alignment, or how far away from the actual tunnel we will be assessing. But we come in with a crew, we come into your home, we have a signed agreement, we have a video camera, we have, we take pictures and thoroughly document the condition of the home to make sure if there is any damage later that we have a baseline. And lastly, I have a sign-up sheet in the back. If anyone would like to sign up with your email or your address, we would be happy to put you on a list for continuous updates as we move towards construction.
Also, would you know by now how many lanes will be shut down during this construction? So on Rhode Island Avenue or?
Yeah.
Arkansas?
Yeah, we had so I hate to keep saying, in the EA we have identified lane closures, but for the two sites that we talked about tonight, it looks like we'll be taking 2 lanes on 6th Street and a lane on Rhode Island Avenue at Cooper Park. Again, that could be anywhere from 24 to 36 months at that location. Moving up to Florida Avenue, to build the diversion chamber at Florida Avenue, it's looking like we're going to need 2 lanes of Florida Avenue for a period of about 18 months or so. Keep going up the street to 4th Street. We're sort of up on 4th Street at that location, so we'll have some localized impacts on 4th Street. And then Rhode Island Avenue at near the Home Depot and the WMATA station, we'll be taking 2 lanes in the middle of Rhode Island, as well as the median to complete work there. We're working with DDOT early now. We understand traffic is going to be a big impact to this project, so we're working early now with DDOT to try and get, mitigate traffic impacts as much as possible.
So will the traffic, the lane closures be 24 hours or only certain hours during the day?
That's something we're trying to analyze now. For the worst case scenario for a draft study, we analyze that they be closed, the lanes would be reduced 24/7, just to get a worst case impact and see if we had to be able to open them up during AM and PM peak, or if we'd be able to keep them closed. So we're still analyzing the results of our study, working through the process with DDOT right now.
Justin, will they be simultaneous, or will they be CSA?
Right now, the work is assumed to occur simultaneously as a worst case scenario. We think the contractor would not do all the work at all construction staging areas at the same time, but we want to analyze that worst case scenario if there are mobilizations at all of the sites along Rhode Island Avenue. So we're analyzing it that way.
So you will not use the lanes as staging area as well?
We will use, yes, we will, so we will. So at Cooper Park, we need one lane of Rhode Island Avenue to build the facilities there. Our street, we're proposing currently to close, as well as 2 lanes on 6th Street.
Yeah, that's about the biggest issue that I've heard people express outrage at. I presume that, your partners at DDOT, are aware of the amount of traffic that is, cross-town traffic that is carried by R Street, especially in the morning rush hour. P Street does not have the capacity, and S Street does not have the capacity to be able to carry that additional traffic without incredible backups. So, that's something that we will also include in our correspondence, but, you need to keep at least one lane of traffic going through. You can take the parking lanes if you have to on that stub on the 600 block of R Street, but you've got to have some carrying capacity there, or all hell's gonna break loose.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, when you say 2 lanes on 6th Street, what do you mean? A lane on all sides and lane on?
Let me show you. So showing the construction staging area, it's shaded in white here, where we could be doing work as part of our planning for environmental assessment work. So we're on slide 14. We'd be taking, and the environmental assessment addresses this, we'd be taking these 2 lanes on 6th Street, on the west side of 6th Street, a lane along Rhode Island Avenue. And right now, we do have our street closed, but we will take your comment into consideration and look at maintaining a lane through there.
So if you take 2 lanes on 6th Street, say going north, that means that the 2 lanes on, because there's only 2 lanes on each side, the 2
Right.
lanes on the other side is gonna be one way, one lane?
1 lane each direction. That's what we'd have to do, a lane shift. Keep traffic going through there.
That's a particularly dangerous intersection, which we just managed to, about after 10 years of effort, to get restriped and re-signed so we can make it safer, and now we're gonna go back to having some really bad traffic conditions there for a number of years.
If it's preferred to do night work there, you should make that a comment in the EA. If you want us to do night, we're not anticipating doing night work because there's the sound ordinances, but if it's preferred, then put that in the EA as a comment that you want us to do it. It's fine by us to do it that night.
Yeah, any mitigation strategies you guys, the community can think of, certainly let us know through the comment forums. We'd definitely like to hear feedback. It helps us in our planning and our design as well.
And let us know about the traffic concerns and, what you heard here tonight, what you would prefer to see. Try to address it.
And in this comment form that I'm going to stack up back here, there's an email, and that email is dccleanrivers@dcwater.com. It goes to both Emmanuel and myself, so feel free to send us any concerns after the comment period.
Since the construction would be in my district, I move that ANC 6E send a letter to DC Water and Sewer Authority and carbon copy the DC Department of Transportation outlining our concerns regarding the Northeast Boundary Tunnel construction and our suggestions regarding mitigating the impact on the residents in this area.
I'll second it.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we will be working diligently to get that correspondence off tomorrow.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Another question?
Does it have to get in tomorrow, your letter have to get in tomorrow in order to be part of the record?
That is our intention.
Okay.
He's gonna stay up all night and write it. Right, Alan?
And we're looking for input from everyone on the commission, anything that you want to see added to it. Thank you very much for your presentation. And folks, if you do have comments and you want to fill these out, and if the folks from DC Water have already left when you're finished, I'd be glad to take them and scan them and make sure that they're submitted to DC Water on time. So I did see a representative from Dasha Beer Garden arrive.
Alex, may I make a suggestion? Since they showed up late, we should go with the next person on the agenda, and if we have time, we'll go back to Dasha. They weren't here for when they were called.
We've already taken one of the presentations out of order, so, and this is a relatively short matter. So we have information presentations for the balance. So this is the only remaining item of business for the commission to take action on, other than the 1126 Fifth Street item that we agreed to take up under old business. So we're going to have a representative of Dasha Beer Garden come forward. This is 1600 7th Street Northwest. This establishment operates under a voluntary agreement with Advisory Commission 6E. They have requested certain changes in hours of operation. I will let them make their request, and then I will report on the committee's action on their request taken last week.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. So we've requested 3 changes, and two changes were adopted by the committee. The first changes that we've requested is to remove the restriction on the opening hour, because effectively it doesn't really make any difference to when we open. Obviously, we're not going to open at 7 o'clock in the morning, not until we have a building built. And once we do have a building built, that's when we plan to run a coffee shop, and that's when we potentially would open at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that was the first request. The second request was to equate the holiday hours of operations, say 4th of July or Memorial Day weekend, to our weekend hours. So, so that basically we can operate on a weekend hours expectations. This largely came also from our customers, who were very surprised that we would operate on a weekday schedule during the holidays. So those are the 2 changes that were discussed with the neighborhood committee first. We met with the neighbors and extensively discussed everything with a large group of immediate neighbors, and then this issue went to the subcommittee for the ANC, and we seem to have gained support there as well. So with that,
I'll note that there was a separate request from the operators to consider allowing amplified music and other forms of entertainment on the premises, which was not supported by the committee. So this will require a modification to the voluntary agreement that is in effect, and this has to be approved by the ABC board, but I don't anticipate that there will be any issues there. As indicated, the ABC licensing committee did meet last week and did recommend support for lifting the restriction on the opening hours. as well as supporting the implementation of weekend hours for holidays, which is fairly standard, and but not supporting the request to allow either unamplified or amplified entertainment on the premises. So this location is in my single-member district, and I'm going to move. I'll take a question.
So what time is it?
So I move that Advisory Neighborhood Commission, 6E, support opening hours of operation for Nasha Beer Garden, beginning at 7 a.m. Daily, and the implementation of weekend hours for holidays, but that we continue to restrict any form of entertainment on the premises, and that these items be incorporated into a new volunteer agreement that would be submitted to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board and the Alcoholic Beverage Regulatory Administration. And I would ask for a second. Okay, questions?
So was this a home run, this opening at 7 a.m. with the community group that you spoke? I mean, I just, not, I mean, I like you guys and all that, but I just find it a little bit that it was, that all these people were in favor
Well,
of this.
so the
I
discussion.
can imagine like 10, 10,
So
30,
the discussion is this: we're not going to open the beer garden before noon at all, maybe even 1 o'clock. It's just not. There's nobody there. It's counterproductive.
But if you do, they will come.
No, they won't.
Am I right? They'll come. They will come if you open it up. There's no doubt in my mind.
So once again, the only reason why we said 7 a.m. is to remove that subject. Is it 10? Is it 11? Is it 1 o'clock? What, it doesn't. It makes absolutely no difference for us. We're gonna open in the afternoon. Sometimes we might open at 2 o'clock, and sometimes we'll open at 4. It all depends on the weather. We're all outside as it is. So, but 7 a.m. so that we don't come back to you guys once we have the building, so that we would change this agreement. We would like to run a coffee shop in the morning.
But you could,
And-
that's great, and I think that part is fantastic, but what if it's like a really hot day, at 11 o'clock, time for beer? There'll be nothing stopping you, I mean, there's no, it'll just be 10:30, I mean,
So what's wrong with the 11 o'clock?
I just don't know, but I just don't quite believe that the neighbor would be that gung-ho about this. The potential is there
But that
for
Aberm
use.
license allows it, so.
You go into the Busboys and Poets, and you can get a glass of wine there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
This is not, it's a little bit different, this setup's different, and I like it, that's like, once again,
Right.
I don't, but it's just, the setup is totally
The
different.
thing is, it's not, the 7 o'clock in the morning was basic thinking that we don't want to come back to you guys this coming winter when we have the building done, so that we go through the same motion again. And we need morning hours for the coffee shop operation, and sort of earlier hours of opening up, just in case what you've just described, if the weather is nice, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and the Civic Association had no objection to.
Right. We run this by a number of neighbors, and in fact, we sat down with a very large group of immediate neighbors who discussed this at great length with us. And, they had absolutely no reservations about this. In fact, all we talked about was the music thing, which came about because there are some neighbors who play guitars, and so it's not, the neighbors had absolutely no objections.
And the neighbors, however, did decline to support an extension of hours of operation to later
Correct.
closure.
Correct.
So that's
Yeah.
why that isn't even
Right,
before us.
and we
That was
were
withdrawn.
just completely fine with that as well. We've made total concessions on that.
So further discussion on the part of the commission? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Nay.
Let's have a recorded vote. ANC 6001 is yay, 02,
Yay.
03,
Nay.
04,
Nay.
05,
Yay.
06.
Yes.
So motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you for coffee.
I'll be there at 7 a.m.
Did we ever get any representatives from DDOT to discuss the north-south corridor study? See, if it's not the case. Moving on to 1206 4th Street Northwest, Church of the Living God, Community Noise Complaints, Commissioner Magro.
Okay, presenting before us is Mr. James Brush. He's one of my constituents. This has to do, there's a situation between Mr. Brush and the Church of the Living God. I've asked the Church of the Living God to be here. I contacted him twice. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, okay, hi, I'm sorry. I'm only familiar with the gentleman that's always up front. It's not these guys.
Okay.
He's not here tonight. The guy's by the door always.
Oh,
Yes, Michael?
Yeah, Mike.
Michael, he's not here. Okay, well, great, happy, thank you for coming. Good. So I have representatives from the church here, and Mr. Brush will be discussing his concerns with the commission. We will not be taking any sort of motion tonight with this.
Can you answer a question? Or can the person, the noise provisions for the city, has someone been doing the decibel readings and writing them down every 20 seconds, as is required by DC law?
There's been discussions with DCRA. There's several offices involved in this already, so.
But if they haven't been taking the readings and they haven't been doing it every 20 seconds, as per the noise requirement, with an official decibel reader from DCRA, there is nothing to discuss.
Well, we're gonna let Mr. Brush do this.
Mr. Rush, can you share what you're giving to the audience with the commission?
Sure, you have a copy in front of you. You have a copy of my, a summary of what I'm about to say. Some of the audience has just the noise ordinance provisions, and some have the full presentation because I ran out of the noise ordinance. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate the chance to do this. And I'll try to be brief. There may seem to be a lot here, but I think I can be brief. I just want to point out that the noise ordinance was adopted in 1978.